And now the history of Final Destination, the 2000 film, begins with The X-Files, of course. The X-Files was a television series created by Chris Carter. It ran from September 1993 to May 2002, then brought back for 2 seasons starting in 2016. For more X-Files thoughts from Lacey and I, see Load Bearing Beams episode 19. Go way, way back in the archive when we talked about the X-Files movie in the first half of that episode, and then the second half we talked about Lacey's movie, The Boondock Saints.
Oh God, talk about a time capsule. Maybe don't do it. It depends on
don't actually
how big of a loadie you are.
Yeah, don't actually do that.
Don't do that.
The premise of the X-Files was you got these 2 FBI agents, you got the true believer in Fox Mulder, and you got the skeptic in Dana Scully. She's assigned to keep an eye on him and debunk his claims, but surprise, surprise, they end up being best friends. Aw. Now, the way the show worked was an episode could either be an episode that advanced the larger narrative of the series. They called these the mythology episodes or the mythos episodes about this big government conspiracy. Or most of the episodes were what they called Monster of the Week. Mulder and Scully just go to a random part of America that always happened to look like Vancouver. And you're like, look, Scully, it's the Jersey Devil.
Uh-oh.
Mulder, there's no Jersey Devil. Then it turns out there is.
Uh-oh.
So Final Destination began its life.
Shouldn't we disclose that Matt absolutely loves X-Files? Just in case you're about to shit on it. I don't think you're about to shit on X-Files, but I just want to put that in.
Love X-Files.
Lovers.
Would love to.
Lovers.
That we could redo that episode on X-Files movie. Just so we could
go episode by episode, Matt.
We could, sure.
We fucking could.
We could. Final Destination began life as a spec script for X-Files.
Okay.
I think I've always known this, but I had the details a little wrong in my head.
Uh-oh.
But the idea was like, yeah, this could be a Monster of the Week show. Mulder's, look, Scully, they survived a plane crash. Now this kid thinks they're all going to die. And on the X-Files, among the very prominent writer-producers on that show was the writing partnership of James Wong and Glen Morgan. James Wong is the director of Final Destination. Morgan is the producer, and both are co-writers. Now, just so you know, I'm saying James Wong, not to be confused with James Wan, director of Saw and of The Conjuring.
Some of us might have confused that earlier.
Wong and Morgan, they wrote the 3rd episode of The X-Files. They wrote one of the most acclaimed early episodes of the show, Ice, which is the episode I showed Lacey to get her into that show. Tons of classic episodes. I was surprised to see that only one of them ever directed an episode during the original run of the show. James Wong directed the season 4 episode Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. But both of them directed episodes in the revival seasons. But so all of this is to say, I just knew knowing their names because I was such a big X-Files fan. I just assumed, well, the way this works is they came up with this idea that like, this will be an X-Files script. It either got rejected by Chris Carter or they thought this has potential. Let's set that aside and make it into a movie. And when you watch the movie, you think, yeah, these FBI agents are Mulder and Scully and the kids are the random kids they would meet. We're just spending more time with the kids than we normally would on an episode of X-Files.
Right.
But that's not how it happened. Yes.
Was that a habit of theirs did the X-Files crew, I don't know why I'm stuttering, did they have some movies because they had juicier episodes than they?
Did not. It was not a thing that happened. I bet you're not even, it's probably, I don't know how they would enforce this, but I'm sure that's actually not even allowed.
It's true.
Is the show owns everything that you generate on their time. So until I looked into the history of the movie, I assumed they just came up with the idea, decided to make a movie. Instead, it originated with somebody who is totally unconnected to the X-Files. His name is Jeffrey Reddick. He is credited as the creator of the Final Destination franchise. He grew up in Kentucky, and he said in a Den of Geek interview in 2021 that he grew up as a kid, as a huge horror fan, loved A Nightmare on Elm Street, and he decided to write a prequel as a 14-year-old, and he sent it to the New Line offices, and then he actually got a response from Bob Shea, the famous head of New Line. This is like when our friend Paul got a response from Steven Spielberg's office when he sent his movie that he made. But this ended up leading to them becoming pen pals. And when he was a young adult, he moved to New York and got an internship at New Line. And he didn't know if he wanted to become an actor or a writer or a director. He was kind of just trying it all. But he worked at New Line in the 1990s when New Line was at its absolute peak. He was learning the business the old-fashioned way. He was kind of doing what we said on the Death Proof episode that Quentin Tarantino wished he had gotten to
working
do.
his way up the ranks.
In like a more traditional way, like learning, treating it like a blue-collar job, being a grunt.
Well, he's going to start with genre, then, you're going to have to work your way up.
Yeah. So he was trying to get a screenwriting agent, and he's told a good way to attract an agent is you write a spec script of a TV show that you like. So he didn't even write this with the idea of sending it to the X-Files. It was just, this will just be for my portfolio.
Ah, that makes sense.
So he wrote this spec script and he said, quote, I read about a woman who was on vacation and her mother told her not to take the flight she was planning to take home as she had a bad feeling about it. The woman changed it and the plane she was supposed to be on crashed. End quote. I looked for evidence of this ever happening. All the Google results kind of just point to this. Not, it's not important if he made this up or not. It's just.
Well, I could definitely see this would have been time of talk of daytime TV. That would have absolutely been people who have premonitions. He could have just heard on Sally Jesse Raphael and been like, yeah, I read that. I mean, that's definitely after something like that happens, you got to think a lot of people who didn't take that flight make up bigger, that they were more in control of it than they were.
Right. Like how many famous people have a story about how they were supposed to be involved in 9/11 and weren't?
Right.
Seth MacFarlane, others I can't remember.
So many.
So, quote, it was going to be Scully's brother Charles who had the premonition. He gets off the plane with a few other people, but they start dying, and Charles blacks out every time there is a murder, so people suspect he is doing it. The twist at the end was that the sheriff who had been investigating alongside Mulder and Scully the whole time had actually been shot and flatlined at the same time as the plane crash. Death brought him back to kill all of the survivors, including Charles. End quote. So very, very different idea, even from what the movie ends up being. But he shows this to people at New Line, and they say this could be a movie. So they buy it and they start developing it and hire him as a screenwriter. And his idea is these are adults; they're not going to be teenagers. But the studio says, Scream is so popular right now; these need to be teenagers. So they bring aboard James Wong and Glen Morgan, just these veterans. They'll know how to shape it into a proper thing. But the big discussion, the big debate was, is there going to be either an actual killer or is there going to be like an on-screen embodiment of death? Will there be the Grim Reaper? Will there be an iconic like slasher character?
That's a huge decision to make. It completely shapes because certain people don't find things that are supernatural all that scary. Mm-hmm. And certain people find people who are slashers to be kind of silly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how you decide.
For me, a slasher is so much scarier because it is just that thing of anybody could pick up a knife and just go into your house.
Just stabby.
It could happen at any time. But then, of course, at any time, my car could crash, a fucking rock could fall on my eye, and then I fall into a lake or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that old chestnut.
So, quote from Reddick, quote, I fought really hard to make sure we never showed death because for me, if you didn't show it, it could be something someone, no matter what their belief system, could project onto our villain. That was a tough sell for the studio. They would be like, this doesn't make any sense. You can't see it and you can't fight it, but that's the point. It's death.
Right.
Luckily, both James Wong and Glen Morgan were very insistent that we never show it and never tie it into a specific belief system.
That's really smart. And I mean, not only going off of the first one, they also did a good job in making sure it didn't have a signature thing. They knew right away that it was going to be playing with expectations. So they give you a bunch of little moments in these kills where that could be the thing. Oh, is it that, so you're already second guessing yourself. So if with like the first one, it's got this very, what am I trying to say? Aware puddle of water, so I'm glad that didn't. Water continues to be a thing, but it doesn't have a signature. Oh, here comes the death water. It's all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. Then sometimes it's a little bit more. I don't know. I guess maybe sometimes we're just tracking it more. It depends on how they tried to show you the kill. I don't know what I'm talking about.
James Wong said in the film's press kit, quote, one thing we were all in agreement from the start is we don't want to do a slasher movie, I became very excited when we decided to make the world at large in the service of death our antagonist. Everyday objects and occurrences then take on ominous proportions, and it becomes less about whether or not our characters are going to die and more about how they will die and how they can delay their deaths. The entertainment value is in the ride, not in the outcome, and by placing the premise of the film on the inevitability of death, we play a certain philosophical note, end quote. Yeah, I sort of love that if you think about it, this is just a horror series about the fact that we're all going to die.
Right.
And that we can be killed in really stupid ways at any moment. And this is just, we're going to accelerate that a little bit. But if you say, it's like a Catch-22, the novel Catch-22, when the main character is an Air Force pilot and he doesn't want to fight in the war anymore. And he tells his fellow officers, he's like, they're trying to kill me. And they're like, no one's trying to kill you. And he's like, then why are they dropping bombs on me? And like, they're dropping bombs on everyone. The idea of like, it's always coming for you. Death is always coming for you. You're always going to die.
Well, they spend a lot of time in the first one on how to cheat death specifically. So I'm a little bit at a handicap, or a lot of it, that I don't know how they handle it going forward. But do the characters spend a lot of time figuring out cheats or like order and like, or is that just the first movie?
Yes,
thing?
the order's always there.
Okay.
And it's always important. The cheats,
or just, it's the stages of grief, right? So it's like the bargaining. So it's like, these are what, even if it's not possible, I would assume the characters are still trying to figure out how to get away with not dying in every movie.
The second movie brings in this idea that if you create new life, because there was like a pregnant woman who was supposed to die in the opening sequence of the second movie, they're like, okay, well, if she gives birth to her baby, that will cancel this whole thing out. So they're always like trying to throw in new wrinkles.
Okay. I can just see like forcing a freaking an early term pregnancy. Like, this guy's about to die. Let's just roll the dice.
I like that the movies get less concerned about all of that shit.
I could see that being a relief.
But as to the question of, don't we need an iconic villain? The kind of way to circumvent that is we'll have Tony Todd, and Bob Shea takes credit for that. He said that it was his idea for Tony Todd because he was Candyman, but he claims he was very unhappy with how white this cast was. Said this in 2021, but okay. Tony Todd lingers so big in my memory. He is in so little of this movie. He's in so little of all of these movies. It really is just a cameo, but he's so important to them as just this cackling, delightful presence is he the actual devil? Is he death himself? Is he the Grim Reaper? Does he work for death? Why does he know so much?
He has the best job ever because he loves death so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just full of joy. He's like that guy in Die Hard that's like just pumped to be a fucking bad guy.
I love being a terrorist.
It's so fun. Doodly
do what you love and you'll never work.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's quickly talk about Devon Sawa. A Canadian actor, 22 years old at the time of production, made his cinema debut with Little Giants in 1994.
I like that movie.
Looms so big in everybody's memory because he played Human Casper in 1995. I'm Human Casper. Played the town bully in 1995's Now and Then previous episode.
Oh, yeah.
Casper will probably be an episode at some point.
I thought it was.
Another potential future episode, Wild America in 1997 with Devon Sawa and JTT. Do you remember this movie?
Of course I remember JTT in this movie, yes.
And it was a big movie for me because they fly around in one of those like paddle planes or whatever you call them.
What, like the kind where they're outside and they're wearing goggles?
Yeah, and you pedal like it's a bicycle, but it flies.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds fun.
Another potential future episode, he was in SLC Punk.
Yes.
Lacey loves that movie.
Yep.
I saw that movie at 13 and I was like, this is a scary movie because they're bad and they worship the devil. And apparently the role that got him the Final Destination role was Idle Hands in 1999.
I didn't realize that had come out before. I remember that one being quite ridiculous and funny.
It seemed like a Lacey movie.
Yeah. It was probably, I think it was a little too negative, a little too mean for me to watch it over and over again. But I definitely saw it more than once.
And then, same year as Final Destination, he plays Stan in Eminem's music video Stan. And he still works steadily in TV and movies. He said he did struggle with, being a former child star in Teen Idol, struggled with addiction and stuff, but it seems like things are good for him. Anyway, this movie was a big hit. $23 million budget. It made $113 million worldwide. Started a franchise that I was looking at it, and like New Line was very restrained about, because each movie made a lot of money, but they were like, we'll put one out every 3 years.
That is very restrained.
And then they just stopped in 2011. When the next movie opens, so the worldwide box office gross for the whole franchise right now is $666 million. And it's a shame that will change with the new movie opening up. But that's the history of Final Destination.
Yay. Good job.